Hello, welcome to day 3 of our Holy Week devotions. And today, to kick us off, Debbie and Lucy are going to read our passages to us.
And he began to tell the people this parable. A man planted a vineyard and let it out to tenants, and went into another country for a long while. When the time came, he sent a servant to the tenants, so that they would give him some of the fruit of the vineyard. But the tenants beat him and sent him away empty-handed. And he sent another servant, but they also beat and treated him shamefully, and sent him away empty-handed. And he sent yet a third. This one also they wounded and cast out. Then the owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my beloved son. Perhaps they will respect him." But when the tenants saw him, they said to themselves, "This is the heir. Let us kill him, so that the inheritance may be ours." And they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy those tenants and give the vineyard to others. When they heard this, they said, "Surely not." But he looked directly at them and said, "What then is this that is written? The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. Everyone who falls on that stone will be broken to pieces, and when it falls on anyone, it will crush him."
And every day he was teaching in the temple, but at night he went out and lodged on the mount called Olivet. And early in the morning all the people came to him in the temple to hear him. Now the feast of unleavened bread drew near, which is called the Passover, and the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to put him to death, for they feared the people.
Thanks so much, Debbie and Lucy. Now, I'm not sure if any of you are into magic, but I'm not ashamed to say that I'm a huge fan of magic. And there's a magician called Darren Brown who's actually a psychological illusionist. And many of his illusions are all about trying to read someone's mind, apparently, and influence their behavior. And one of the amazing things he does in his live shows is he speaks to a stranger in the audience, and he apparently is able to reveal details about their lives that he couldn't have known. Now, as impressive as this is, everyone watching knows it's just a trick. No one can read someone's mind. No one can see into the future. Yet, in our passages today, we see that Jesus knew that the chief priests and the scribes were out to kill him. And he knows that he will soon die on the cross. How does he know this? Well, because he was no mere man. He was God in the flesh. Yesterday, Pete showed us that the inevitable was going to happen. Jesus was going to die. And it was the chief priests and the scribes that were going to bring about his death. In the passages that Debbie and Lucy read for us, we see that although it was the chief priests and the scribes who were plotting to kill Jesus, it was Jesus who was decisively making his way towards the cross. How do we know this from reading these passages? Well, in the temple, before all the people who had gathered there, including the religious leaders, Jesus tells a parable to describe what the religious leaders were about to do. So the question is, what is this parable all about? Well, in summary, there is an owner of a vineyard who lets his vineyard out to some tenants. Now, it seems that the payment of fruit was part of their letting agreements, and when the time came for the owner to receive his allotment of fruit, the tenants refused to give it to him. And so the owner sent messengers to collect the fruit, but as each messenger arrived, they were beaten and sent away by the tenants. And so the owner thought to himself, what am I going to do? And he decided to send his son. He thought, surely these tenants will respect the authority of my son. But on arriving at the vineyard, the tenants kill the owner's son. And apparently they thought they'd got away with it too. What happens next? Well, the owner himself visits the vineyard and kills the tenants. This is a brutal story. What's it about? Who's who in this parable? Well, you may have worked out that the owner is God the Father, and the messengers are God's prophets that he sent to his people Israel. And as we will see, this parable applies especially to the spiritual leaders of Israel, these chief priests, the scribes. Who's the son in this parable? Well, it's the Son of God. It's Jesus. And so here in plain sight, Jesus was talking about the fact that he was going to be killed and that it was the Jewish leaders who were going to kill him. And these leaders knew exactly what Jesus was talking about because they didn't stop and ask him to clarify exactly what he meant. In fact, a few verses after this, it says this: the scribes and the chief priests sought to lay hands on him at that very hour, for they perceived that he had told this parable against them. But they feared the people. Now, although they weren't able to arrest Jesus at that moment, they were not going to give up. They were going to have their man. They would find a way to kill him. Now, I find this remarkable. Jesus knew that these religious leaders were going to have him killed. But each day he continued to teach in the temple. He didn't hide in fear. Why? Because he knew that his death would not be because these religious leaders were going to succeed in killing him. No, he knew that his death was the very reason for coming to earth in the first place. Every moment from his birth had been leading up to this. Not only that, but all history had been leading up to this point. Yes, these leaders would kill Jesus. They did. But it was God's plan, not the plan of men. And it was the willingness of Jesus to die for you and me that we sing about in the song that we're about to sing. It says, I will sing of his blood that flows for my wretchedness. Wounds that are bared, that I may be healed. And so our response to Jesus' death is praise. Praise that the eternal Son of God would live as a man and die for us undeserving sinners. And so our hearts sing of Jesus the Lamb, and we are filled with wonder and praise. So let's do that now. Let's sing of our Lamb, Jesus, as we close.
I will sing of the Lamb, of the price that was paid for me, purchased by God, giving all he could give. Here I now stand in the garments of righteousness. Death has no hold, for in Jesus I live. I will sing of his blood that flows for my wretchedness, wounds that are bared, that I may be healed. Power and compassion, the marks of his ministry, may they be mine as I harvest his field. Oh, I will sing of the Lamb. Oh, I will sing of the Lamb. My heart fills with wonder, my mouth fills with praise. Once I was blind, yet believed I saw everything, proud in my ways, yet a fool in sake of his name. And oh, I will sing of the Lamb. Oh, I will sing of the Lamb. I'll sing of his love for the rest of my days.
Would the accused please stand? You are Legionnaire Augustus?
Yes, I am.
You are charged with failing to carry out the orders of a superior officer, in that you are negligent in guarding the tomb in which the body of Jesus of Nazareth was laid. How do you plead?
Not guilty.
What do you think happened to make the tomb empty?
I believe Jesus rose.
Objection, my lord. Mr. Arimathea is witness to fact, not to his opinion. So had you been before you went on guard? Let the court stenographer show that I made the drinky motion.
No.
Governor Pilate, you said a moment ago that the Jewish leaders brought this man Jesus to you charged with subverting authority and opposing payment of Roman taxes. Did you find him guilty of these crimes? Do you think you could have done anything to guard the tomb?
No. It was something out of this world.
Out of this world. Thank you.